So, moving on to the next topic, we are talking about Glenn Foster Jr. And for those of you who are not familiar with that name, Glenn Foster Jr. is a former NFL player. He used to play for the New Orleans Saints. He recently passed away while in police custody. So, the question in regards to this subject is what could have caused a former NFL player to die in police custody? So, I'm going to go ahead and start us off here, fellas. And for me, this answer is very simple: foul play. I mean, let's evaluate what happened here. And normally I wouldn't just read directly from an article, but this has specific relevance. So the article I'm reading from, which of course we will always share the link for our listeners out there, is from MSN. And the article says, and it's an interview that was done with the father, Glenn Foster Sr. And it says state authorities are investigating the death of the former New Orleans Saint player 2 days after he was taken into police custody. Glenn Foster Jr. played as a defensive lineman for the Saints in 2013 and for part of the 2014 season, according to NFL.com. Foster was arrested Saturday after officers spotted him driving up to 90 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. A high-speed chase between Foster and police ensued, with a spike strip used to slow down Foster's car before officers arrested him. Foster was headed to Atlanta for a business trip. That's what his father told the Washington Post. Jail records from Pickens County, and just so you all know, this all occurred in Alabama. Jail records from Pickens County shows that Foster was booked Saturday on 3 counts of reckless endangerment, resisting arrest, and attempt to elude. Foster's family was informed of his arrest Saturday, and they told the sheriff about his mental health struggles. So this is what the father, Foster Sr., is telling the Washington Post, who he did the interview with, that after his son was arrested and they were made aware of his arrest, they let the sheriffs in this Alabama county know that their son was having mental struggles. The police chief contacted Foster's family because of his concern about the former player's erratic behavior and arranged for them to bail him out of jail. And they said they sent him to a local hospital for evaluation. Well, Foster Sr., the father, said the family arrived at the jail Sunday to take their son with a police escort to Alabama Birmingham Medical Center to seek medical treatment. But when they arrived, they were told that Foster had been involved in an altercation with another inmate, and so he was placed under the jurisdiction of the sheriff's office. So let me just outline what's happening here. He's arrested Saturday. Family's contacted. Family says, we're going to come and get him on Sunday. Ride with you all because he's having mental breakdown. Ride with you all to take him to get evaluated at the hospital. They get there on Sunday to do the ride to take him to the hospital. They're told, oh, he's no longer at the jail. He's been placed with the sheriff because he got into an altercation with another inmate. Okay. So he was released at 3:14 p.m. Sunday, rebooked 2 minutes later with the sheriff. Jail records show that, on 3 counts of simple assault and 1 count of third-degree robbery. Notice the charges changed there. The charges have changed.
That's actually true. It did change.
Yes, the charges changed, right? So that's an important notice. The first set of charges were reckless endangerment, resisting arrest, and attempt to elude. When he was let go and put into the sheriff's care, those charges changed to 3 counts of simple assault and 1 count of third-degree robbery. So, moving on to the next parts of the story. The family was told that they couldn't visit Foster due to COVID-19 restrictions. So keep in mind, they've arrived at the jail. They're thinking they're going to be able to visit and follow some officers who are going to take him to the hospital because they telling him he's having a manic episode. He's having a mental health breakdown. They tell them, oh, you can't see him. He's not available. The sheriffs took him because he got in an altercation. So they tell him they can't see him at the hospital because of COVID-19 restrictions. So the next thing the article says is the sheriff, after the altercation in the jail, said he's not going anywhere. That's what he said to the family, told CNN. The father said at that point, he thinks my son would be alive today if he had received the treatment he needed. The sheriff's office did not immediately respond to CNN's request for comment. Arrangements were made for Foster to be taken to another facility Monday, Foster Sr. said, and the sheriff's office in charge told the family he got into a cruiser without incident. So Saturday arrested. Sunday he was supposed to go to the hospital, never made it there. They said it was because he got into an incident with another inmate. Monday, the family was supposed to be able to go to see him at the medical facility, and they were then told that he was found unresponsive and couldn't be revived. Get the fuck out of here. Total foul play occurred that entire time he was in custody.
I agree.
It's that simple. This story doesn't even make sense. They can't even get their shit together. They booked him on totally different charges the second time they released him and arrested him 2 minutes later than what they originally booked him on. It would be different if they simply added charges to the original charges, but they didn't add charges. They completely changed the charges. Then the family never got to see him.
That too, I agree. But sorry to cut you off, Night Angel.
Mm-hmm.
So they said the man was doing a 45 in a night. He did a 90 and a 45. He was
doing 90 and a 45.
So
and a chase ensued. So they chased him.
So if he went in a, he had to do that on local road because I don't know if many people, because I lived in Alabama for a year, but the highway is literally. The highway is literally 80 to 85 miles per hour. So if he was going 90 miles per hour on the highway, he's at the right speed and whatnot. So to go,
So actually, I lived there for 5 years too. You are fairly accurate. The miles per hour on the highways are definitely higher than a lot of other places. It's similar to Texas where you'll see 70, 75, maybe even 80 in some areas. So that was actually a very fair observation that for him to be doing 90, it definitely was not on a highway.
Yeah.
Or shouldn't have been for them to consider it reckless endangerment because typically reckless endangerment is 20 miles per hour over the speed limit.
Correct. So he wasn't going. So I didn't even clock him at 100. So that means if there was a 45, that means he was on local road doing 90. Right. I don't know how the hell anybody can do 90 on local road. Because for me, the highest I ever hit on a local road is probably no more than 55, maybe 60 max and whatnot.
I mean, I guess it depends on the stretch of road. You have to keep in mind that Alabama has a different. It's more rural, right? Even in the most common areas like Birmingham and etc. Because I lived actually within the district or the Birmingham County. We lived in an area called Inverness. And so even though the city of Birmingham looked a little more like a city, it actually very much reminds me of Baltimore. Downtown Birmingham, it looks very similar to Baltimore to me. But outside of downtown Birmingham, much of Birmingham is still very rural. So it's quite possible that he could have reached that high of speed without interacting with anyone else, thank the universe, because of the rural geography of Birmingham.
That country road must have been long with no turns and whatnot. It must have.
No, that's a good point. Don't get me wrong. Your point is definitely valid, right? If he were on a highway, it's more than likely that the reckless endangerment charge would not apply. Because, like you said, they have high speed limits on those Alabama highways. You are absolutely right about that. But I was just noting that there are some areas of Birmingham that, even though downtown Birmingham is a city, right, there are other areas within the county of Birmingham that appear to be very rural, right, or that have long roads where you can hit high speeds for a certain amount of distances without running into other pedestrians. I can think of some on 280 right off the top of my head. So I think it just really depends on where he was. But yes, you definitely raised a valid point that, it's the entire situation as far as his charges is very off-putting to me. The fact that they changed it again, it would be different if after the incident with the other inmate, charges were added to the original charges, right? Yes, that makes sense. He, got into a fight in jail or something. Now they're going to add assault or whatever to those original charges. But the fact that they changed from reckless endangerment and etc., which would have been appropriate if their argument was that he was doing 90 and 45 anyway. Yes, I definitely agree with you, E-Man. Something weird and wonky is going on here with the charges alone. The whole story stinks to high hell to me. It's just, there's no way that foul play didn't occur here some way, somehow. And I was actually going to note that in summation, as a former resident of the state of Alabama, I am more than comfortable with saying that there are still counties where there are large number of racist people residing. There was like this saying that you didn't go to certain areas at certain times of the day or etc. if you were Black in Alabama. There were certain areas that were still known for being racist towns. I 100% am not shocked that this happened in Alabama. And the whole story stinks to high hell to me. None of what the cops are saying happened and the way it happening is fluid, in my opinion. It doesn't make any sense. His family never got to see him. They never got to talk to him. So what happened to his ability to make a phone call? They never got to speak to him. Everyone has the opportunity to make at least one phone call when they're arrested. He never spoke to his family. They never spoke to him. They never saw him. All their communications came through the sheriff, through the jail. That is fucking shady.
They must have killed him when they actually had him in custody.
Foul play, in my opinion, there's no question foul play occurred here. None. So that's actually my summation. I would not trust a single thing that comes from the investigation, because the reality is Alabama still has some very racist folks running things there. As a former resident, I am not surprised by the shady feedback from the sheriff's office. And I would say comfortably that in my mind, no question foul play occurred here. And that is how and what caused a former NFL player to die in police custody. So those are my thoughts on that. I'm going to throw it to Mr. PAT. What say you, sir?
All right. So you pretty much touched on a lot of the things that I was going to touch on, or I am going to touch on. Let me clear on that. But I don't have a whole lot to say about this in particular. I think me and you are lockstep in everything on this one. I mean, there's nothing you said that I disagree with. So the question for this particular episode, that's a mystery question.
Yeah.
I will say we can all come to our own conclusions on what the cause of this man's death was. I don't know what exactly caused it, but one thing I will say is I think the reporting of why Glenn Foster was arrested is sketchy.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I say sketchy because it was reported that Glenn was resisting arrest and attempting to elude the police. Then later on, dude was in police custody and all of a sudden died.
Right.
He died, and apparently no one knows the cause of death. So until an official report comes out, I'm thinking there might have been some foul play at work. Just like you, I think the same thing. I think there is some foul play going on, or that went on. Excuse me. I'm not gonna say what I think the foul play is. I'm not gonna say it on here because this is out in the internet world, out there in the matrix. So I'm gonna keep my particular thoughts to myself on that end. But I think we're not getting the truth.
Right.
From what's being reported, what has been reported so far, yeah, I think we're just not getting the truth. Now, to touch on Alabama, and this is another point that you touched on, Naya, is that it's a racist state. Alabama is known to be one of the most racist states in America. It is also one of the states with the most hate groups in it. Now, according to an article, which will be posted in the description, I'll make sure to post that in there. But according to an article titled States with the Most Hate Groups, some of the factors listed are: 1, the number of hate groups recorded in 2020. 2, who identifies as white. 3, the number of foreign-born people. 4, median household income. And the last one, the largest hate group headquartered in the state. And that hate group is listed as League of the South. That's what the hate group is called. So somebody can ask me, so why is all of this important? It's important information because Glenn Foster Jr. was taken into custody and jailed in Alabama, as we all know. A black man being jailed in one of the most racist states in the country should raise a red flag. Period. It should just raise a red flag for, I would say, everyone, but obviously it's not going to raise a red flag for everybody, but I think it should. It's easy for myself and others to think that the reports we've received so far could be fabricated. Do we know this for sure? I mean, I suppose not, but it all remains to be seen. And the sad but unfortunate truth is we probably won't get the truth of what actually happened. And the people behind this, they know that the general public, the masses, the public at large will never be able to find out what really took place. But let's keep it real. Most likely there was some kind of foul play at work. So I'm going to just leave it there. I just think the reports that we've gotten so far is a bunch of BS. However, of course, people can approach you and say, well, it's about what you can prove, which that I agree with also. It's about what can be proven. But
absolutely agree.
The thing is, even though at the same time, you know, we gotta use our third eye. This is one of those things where we gotta rely on our third eye on this one. We got the two eyes, of course, the visible ones, but we gotta rely on the pineal gland, the third eye. Because clearly when we look at America as a whole, and could be a whole nother subject that, you know, we're not going to get deep into right now, of course, but when you just look at the racism in America, America was built on racism, as we know. So you take Alabama, one of the most racist states out there, and then we're talking about race soldiers. For the slow ones in the back, we're talking about cops. I mean, come on, we got to connect the dots here. But again, I'm gonna just leave it right there before I go off into the deep end. I'm gonna just leave it right there. Those are my thoughts.
I totally agree with your assessment. Like 100% spot on. I think everything you said is spot on, and I want to make clear my thoughts and opinions on this matter are just that. Nothing I've said is a fact at this point. But I totally agree with you that there is, absolutely too much shady, inconsistent information that have come out of this for me to be comfortable trusting any part of the story that we're getting. I just don't feel like we're being given the true story about what happened to him.
Yeah,
and
I don't think we are.
especially in the state it came from.
Right. I agree.
I just totally disagree that it's being truthful. So, all right, we're going to throw it to E-Man to wrap us up. What say you, good sir?
Like I said, shit got to make sense. You know, shit just got to make sense. In this case, this shit makes zero sense.
Right. You know? Right.
Like if y'all going to put a story out there, make sure that's just for all the editors out there, because I don't get how, man, police custody, then family wants to talk to him, but somehow he dies in y'all hands. So that's telling me y'all did something to him. Just saying. But my third eye just hit me up, just saying like, yo, this don't make no sense. So it had to be a ritual to me in my eyes, because I feel like it when it comes to police, they are the original slave catchers. You know, no disrespect, but that's what they are.
The race soldiers. Yep.
That's what they are.
Oh, you said something. You just touched my spirit a little bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you just touched my spirit a little bit when you said ritual, E-Man. That's deep. You know what? That's real deep when you think about that. I'm gonna let you finish, but that was actually a deep some deep terminology you used there. But go ahead, sir.
So, because when I heard about this story, you know, for me, I'd be like, man, that's a ritual. But then I'm sitting over here and was like, yo, there's some inner deep meaning within it, you know. And before I continue, first and foremost, you know, I just want to say, rest in power, Demaryius Thomas, which I think that was also a ritual also too, towards him dying. You know, because it's funny, you know, he died at 33. So yeah.
Did they release an official cause of death?
No, they actually didn't yet. So
interesting. Okay. But he was alone and someone discovered him. I'm sorry, I don't know the full story on him. He was alone and someone discovered him.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
That's what I heard. And it's so crazy. You have another story like this with another NFL player. So man.
That's a very good point too.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going deep there. They're going deep there. Retired NFL player at that.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah. I mean, DT he actually just retired not too long ago. So it was just crazy just hearing about, you know, another, you know, retired NFL player. And
Interesting. Okay.
So, I'm gonna just, and I'm not, for me, I ain't gonna rap. I ain't gonna go in. So I feel like I said what I needed to say. But, I just want to end it on that, like you can't fool E-Man because E-Man's always reading and watching. So I'm gonna just end my thoughts from there. And like, yeah, let's get into the last topic.
All righty. Thank you, sir. You actually got my mind kind of going with your comment about the ritual and the fact that it's two NFL players who've lost their lives in what seems like mysterious circumstances. Now, it could very well be that they are not connected in any way, because I want to say that I heard that Demaryius Thomas, that there was some statement that his was natural causes. And of course, here at The Good, the Bad, and the Truth, we are again sending our condolences to the families of all of the ones who were lost. But I think, there's definitely some interesting viewpoints around the ritual aspect. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts on that, sir.